Star Trek creators have proven they know how to turn on the funny since the beginning. Whether it's entire episodes, hilarious scenes, or little more than a couple of lines of dialogue, here's what we count as the funniest moments in the history of Star Trek. One of the most fun conflicts to witness on Star Trek, Deep Space Nine is the back and forth between Constable Odo and the scheming Ferengi Quark. Perhaps their funniest exchange happens in Season 4's The Way of the Warrior, just before the epic battle between the eponymous station and a fleet of Klingon ships. Finding Quark outside his bar, Odo tells him it's time to head to the emergency shelter, but Quark assures Odo he intends to defend his property. Quark isn't known for being able to defend himself against so much as a tribble, much less battle-hardened Klingon warriors, so Odo is understandably skeptical. The bartender produces a box that he thinks holds a disruptor pistol. When he opens the box, boldly claiming he'll be ready for the Klingon rather than a weapon, there's a note inside. Without skipping a beat or asking permission, Odo grabs the note and reads it. It's from Quark's brother Rom, informing him he gutted his disruptor to fix their replicator. It's here that Odo hits Quark with a real zinger: "I will kill him." With what? Deanna Troy's intrusive and flirtatious mother Lwaxana, played by the late Majel Barrett, provides a tremendous amount of comic relief whenever she shows up. In her third appearance on Star Trek: The Next Generation, her predicament forces Captain Picard to deliver a speech so ridiculously over the top that even if you've never watched TNG, you've likely seen the memes inspired by it. After Will Riker, Deanna, and Lwaxana are kidnapped by the Ferengi Daimon Tog, Lwaxana succeeds in getting Riker and her daughter sent back to the Enterprise by promising to be Tog's lover. When the Enterprise contacts Tog, Lwaxana pretends she doesn't want to be rescued, telling Picard that it's over between them. Deanna figures out what her mother is doing and tells Picard he will have to fight for her. In a display so melodramatic it would even make William Shatner groan, Picard professes his love for Lwaxana, threatens Tog with annihilation, and recites famous lines from Shakespearean sonnets with as much grandiose flair as he can muster. "My love is a fever, longing still for that, which longer nurseth the disease." Worf watches in disgust, looking like he's about to rage puke. It's Picard like you've never seen him, and probably wouldn't want to see him again. In Star Trek, the original series, the Season 2 episode The Trouble with Tribbles starts off on a serious note. The Enterprise is already on its way to Deep Space Station K7, but they put the pedal to the metal when they receive an alert that their destination is under attack. This alert proves to be a false alarm, though dangers do await at K7, a domineering Federation bureaucrat, a Klingon spy, and a space trader named Cyrano Jones who sells members of the Enterprise crew some of the most troublesome pets in the galaxy, tribbles. The Trouble with Tribbles is a classic, and one of the first examples of a whimsically goofy original series episode that makes a point of not taking itself too seriously. From the countless puffballs that multiply faster than a gremlin in a tropical storm to the ridiculous barroom brawl between the Klingon and Enterprise crew, to the peddler Cyrano Jones willing to risk life and limb in order to score a free drink, The Trouble with Tribbles is a great time. To celebrate his upcoming marriage to Jadzia in the DS9 episode titled You Are Cordially Invited, Worf invites Chief O'Brien and Dr. Bashir, among others, to the ritual of Kalhaya. Thinking they can expect the Klingon version of a bachelor party, they happily accept. But rather than drinking or exotic dancers, the path to Kalhaya involves fasting for 4 days and nights, being drained of blood, hanging from a pole over intense heat, and other creative forms of torture. When Worf abruptly cancels the wedding, Bashir and O'Brien are thrilled to cut their torment short. They head straight to Quark's for a feast, but before they can sink their teeth in, Sisko and Martok arrive to let them know the wedding's back on. When Quark takes their untouched food away, you can practically hear them whining like disappointed puppies. After several vows from both friends that they're going to kill Worf, the wedding finally arrives. Part of the friends' duty, as per Klingon tradition, is to attack Worf and Jadzia with blunted weapons called mastakas. While everyone else applauds. The newlyweds kiss. Bashir looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi waiting for a force field to come down. Now? Not yet. When Martok finally gives the word, Bashir and O'Brien rush Worf and Jadzia with cries of rage and the credits roll to sounds of the mock battle. Spock doesn't like Italian food. One of the best Star Trek films featuring the original cast is 1980 SIX's Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. In order to answer an alien probe's call, which is blindly triggering power losses and apocalyptic storms on Earth, Kirk and his crew must go back in time to recover a humpback whale, a species extinct by the 23rd century. While the original series sent the heroes back in time on multiple occasions, none of those stories feel as natural or believable as in Star Trek IV. Rather than experiencing any particular physical threat, the biggest challenge they face is culture shock. They don't have money. When they try to use a bus, they're foiled by the need for exact change, and in particular they're confused by what Spock calls, quote, colorful metaphors, i.e. all the swearing. The best scene involves Kirk and Spock trying to earn the trust of the marine biologist Dr. Gillian Taylor. Kirk is attempting, and failing, to seem like the normal one compared to Spock. When Kirk suggests the three of them get dinner, one of the most natural, adorably funny moments in the franchise unfolds. You guys like Italian? No. Yes. Yes. No. No. Yes. No. Yes. I love Italian. Worf is no merry man. Due to the meddling of the mischievous entity Q, one of Star Trek's greatest villains, Captain Picard, his senior staff, and Picard's old flame Vash find themselves transported to Sherwood Forest in Season 4's Cupid. There's little about Cupid that won't make you laugh. Picard and his senior officers are made up as Robin Hood's merry men, including Data, who bears the famous bald dome of Friar Tuck. Worf is, predictably, the most incensed by the situation, famously complaining to Picard, "Sir, I protest. I am not a merry man." The most laugh-out-loud moment comes as Geordi rests and plucks at his mandolin. Without comment or permission, Worf calmly walks over, grabs the instrument, and smashes it against a nearby tree. Hilarious wise guys. The Prime Directive prohibits members of Starfleet from interfering with the natural progression of any society outside the United Federation of Planets. Serving as a comically dangerous example of why this code exists is the original series Season 2 episode, A Piece of the Action. 100 years before the events of the episode, Sigma Iosha 2 is visited by the Earth ship Horizon. To help teach the planet's natives, the Horizon crew leaves behind a number of books, including a non-fiction book titled Chicago Mobs of the 20s. After the Horizon leaves, the Ioshians come to see this book as a holy text and base their entire culture on it. When Kirk, Spock, and McCoy beam down to the planet, they find a world where just about every grown male dresses and speaks like tough guys in mobster movies. People openly carry Tommy guns up and down the street as if there's nothing strange about it. A Piece of the Action gets even funnier once Kirk and Spock are outfitted in their own mobster get-ups and Kirk attempts a Chicago gangster impersonation. Shatner wouldn't fool anyone on Earth, and it's tough to tell whether that's intentional, which just makes the whole thing even funnier. Early in Season 5 of DS9, the series made television history with Trials and Tribulations, where the cast of the show is sent back in time to the 1967 original series episode The Trouble with Tribbles. This episode uses every opportunity to poke fun at the franchise. O'Brien, the tireless engineer, is so lost on the Enterprise that when he tries to perform routine maintenance, he takes out all the nearby lights. Bashir gets hit on by a woman he's convinced is his great-grandmother, and afterward he considers the possibility that if he doesn't get involved with her, he might never be born. Hands down, the best moment comes when a waitress points out a table full of Klingon. Everyone but Worf is confused, because, of course, Klingon look a lot different in the original series. It's the first time in the franchise anyone acknowledges what appears to be a glaring inconsistency, and it comes off perfectly. They are Klingon. And it is a long story. Scotty can't figure out computers. Imagine you're suddenly transported to the 23rd century and you need to use a computer more advanced than anything you'd ever seen. Now consider the opposite scenario, and that's what happens in Star Trek IV. On their quest to bring 20th century humpback whales back to the 23rd century, Scotty, McCoy, and Sulu are tasked with figuring out a way to construct a makeshift aquarium aboard the Bounty. While Sulu secures an aircraft, Scotty and McCoy find a plexiglass manufacturer and pretend to be famous scientists with an appointment to tour the factory. At the end of the tour, Scotty plans to offer the head of the plant, Dr. Nichols, the futuristic formula for transparent aluminum, but he needs to use Nichols' computer to prove it can work. Unfortunately, Scotty has a little trouble. Computer? Computer. Thinking he's figured it out, McCoy hands Scotty the mouse. Smiling widely, Scotty holds the mouse to his face like a walkie-talkie and says, "Hello, computer. Just use the keyboard." Scotty knows the ship. 1989 Star Trek V, The Final Frontier is considered one of the worst films in the series, though it is not without its merits. While it's one of the funnier entries in the franchise, some of its detractors would argue that the movie's over-reliance on humor weighs it down. But one easy, uncharacteristically slapstick moment in Star Trek V remains as an incredibly uproarious gag. After the forces loyal to Spock's fanatical brother Sybok seize control of the Enterprise, Kirk, Spock, and Dr. McCoy are imprisoned in the brig. Scotty soon frees them with explosives, and the liberated trio makes a plan to sneak their way to the emergency transmitter. When the subject of search parties comes up, Scotty gives them directions he's confident will steer them clear of Sybok's people. Before they rush off, Kirk emphatically thanks Scotty and calls him amazing. Turning and walking in the other direction, Scotty mutters, "There's nothing amazing about it. I know this ship like the back of my hand." If that were true though, he should have easily been able to avoid that bulkhead. It's perfectly timed and classic. Keiko's second pregnancy scares Worf. If you understand the context, the single-word response Worf delivers to Quark in the Season 4 DS9 episode Accession should make you laugh hard enough to knock you out of any recliner, couch, or captain's chair. Dr. Bashir and O'Brien are sharing a drink in Quark's bar, discussing the news that O'Brien's wife Keiko is pregnant with another baby. It's just then that, behind Bashir and O'Brien, Quark runs into Worf and says, "Did you hear? Keiko's going to have another baby." To understand what happens next, you need to know that 5 years earlier in the Season 5 TNG episode Disaster, much of the Enterprise is rendered inoperable and most of the crew is stranded in different parts of the ship. This, of course, is when Keiko O'Brien, pregnant with her first baby, goes into labor while stuck in 10 forward. As the most qualified crew member, but still with precious little medical knowledge, Worf is the one who's forced to assist with Keiko's pregnancy. So this is why, 5 years later in Accession, when Quark delivers the news, Worf's immediate reaction is to respond with a panicked, "Now?" Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about Star Trek are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.